this computer. So just briefly, we had a process we used to do in Mastery Circle and even went back to the Inside Edge called the appreciation process. And we take one person during a meeting or a couple during the meeting, and we go around the group and say, what I appreciate about you is, and each person would give their heartfelt idea and concept and sometimes little stories. And it was one of the most wonderful processes. You just felt so good, and you got to take in all this healing and love and so forth. So we want to do that for our beloved members who cannot be with us now. They're either in the hospital or in assisted care. So Laura said, please, Ron or Thomas is sleeping now. And so we're going to take him last. So we'll start with Gordon. I'm going to just show a few pictures, real quick pictures here, a little something of Gordon, and then I'll just open it up and we'll capture it. Does that sound okay with everybody? Okay, we'll leave yourself on mute until you're ready to talk so we don't get any feedback. First of all, thank you so much for coming. I know this is going to mean so much to all of them when they can hear this little recording. So I am going to come and share the screen here. And okay, keynote, share sound. Here we go. Let me go here, home. Okay, let's go here, play, go full window. Okay, hopefully everybody can see this. Appreciation for Thomas Hedberg, Ron Safier, and Gordon Peay. Today, Act 4 and the Mastery Circle, and we have our heartfelt space for them. Here's a few pictures from different, this was before the pandemic, and that looks like it was at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And there's Gordon, Ron, and Thomas all smiling nicely. And I just thought that was a beautiful picture to throw in, kind of a walk through memory lane. Here is from the Mastery Circle brochure that Nita created. And again, there's Gordon, Ron, and Thomas, as well as a number of the rest of us looking fairly young. Bill, look at you. That's amazing there. All right. And here's one more. Thomas happy, Ron happy, and Gordon happy with our little gathering again. I always loved the in-person gatherings. They were so great. And then the pandemic came, which was a bit tough, but at the same time, Zoom enabled us to go to Mastery Circle International. And so Sarah and Pamela and others from overseas could come, and people from different states. So that's been wonderful. And MCLA has continued on in Los Angeles, and now we have MCI. So here's Gordon. I just did a couple of line items. We're going to hear a little bit about Gordon speaking, and then I'll just open it up to all of you. Okay, so here's Gordon. He was a naval officer aboard the Yorktown aircraft carrier. He always wanted to be a pilot. I remember that. He was a board of directors certified financial planner. He established his own firm, the Capital Advantage. I love Marilyn, and we married. One thing I'll say about all three of them, their spouses really figure big into their hearts with respect to how they feel about them and how they've helped fulfill their lives. Marilyn is taking wonderful care of me, and our life together is truly enjoyable. A lifetime learner is Gordon, that I've always known him, and he's always sharing new techniques and what he's learned. Okay, two short little clips.
Open with a very, very brief meditation. It's a mindfulness meditation, and it is brief. So just relax, close your eyes if you so desire. Where are you? Here. What time is it? Now. What are you? The moment. I'll come on back to the room. That was written by Dan Millman in a book that changed many lives. It's titled The Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
That's a short one. Here's a little bit more from Gordon.
Frankly, like most people, I did not know better, and I lived a mindless life for many, many years. I married and divorced 4 times. Marilyn is my 5th wife. Fortunately, I have changed, and we are solid, transparent, sharing openly, and in love. This is my very first in-love experience. And Marilyn introduced me to mindfulness in eating. I'm still learning mindfulness in eating because I still have habits, like forgetting to put my fork down when I'm chewing on my bite, focusing on the food in my mouth. But I've now expanded from mindful eating to mindful living.
Okay, so that's a little shot on Gordon. It's just his great way of talking and speaking and so forth. So I'll just open it up. If you could raise your hand either physically or yes, Linda, please.
Gordon and I, we really shared a lot. And when we would go to the meetings, he would drive and we would talk. And he was wonderful, just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person. And I really, really, really love him. I love him.
Yes, thank you, Linda. I remember you drove up from Long Beach for the meeting, so you got to really get to know Gordon. That was great. Okay, Nita, please.
Speaking of mindful eating, Gordon and I used to go out to dinner all the time. And we would go, we went a lot of places and just laughed and talked and carried on. And then at one point, we adopted another member by the name of Michael. And Gordon was so generous with Michael. Michael was a presence. And Gordon was just like the kindest thing. And when he bought his condominium, he hired Michael to decorate it. And Michael got him these giant velvet theatrical curtains that were like 20 feet tall, red with fringe. And Gordon loved them. And then he asked me to do something feminine for this 20-foot wall that the curtains hung beside. So Connie, you remember Connie was my assistant for a long time. We went out and bought hundreds of scarves at the thrift store, like $1 or $2 each. And we came back and we hung a bar in my ceiling and we started weaving and we wove all of these beautiful scarves. It didn't matter what it was. We just a mishmash like a quilt. And it went from my ceiling down all along my floor, and we could barely work on it. We could barely get it. But then the day came when we took it and hung it, and I'm telling you, he was so thrilled. He was so quick to say, in his very, Nita, I really love it. I really truly do. I really love it. You know, he never would like throw his arms around you, but he would, I really love it. So I loved Gordon Black. Oh, and he would help anybody with any financial issue. It didn't matter. You could call him and say, "Hey, Gordon, I have a question on something having to do with," and he was like, and he worked it out. It was amazing, his generosity. And one last thing, Connie and I went to Arkansas, to Little Rock, and he said, "Oh, you must go visit my sister." And I thought, "Oh, wow, Gordon's sister? Can you imagine?" Oh my God. First of all, she lived in this magnificent home. She's very wealthy, and she adores Gordon. And all she could talk about was what a great brother he was. And she's very involved with the arts. And she said, "I'm so pleased to know that there are people in Los Angeles who love my brother as much as I do." And some of you met her. She came to the Mastery Circle a couple of times. Okay. I love Gordon. I love Gordon. I love you, Gordon. I love you, Gordon.
Thank you so much, Nina. Let's go with Michael and then Mary Grace.
Now, that wasn't, I'm not the same as the Michael and Nita story, by the way. I'll just say briefly that Gordon lived far away from the old Beverly Hilton Hotel, and I lived down the street. And so I would come early, and he would come. He was always there like 20, 30 minutes ahead of the meeting time. And so we ended up meeting right before they opened the doors. And we were sitting out on the sofa outside of the room where we would go in. And we ended up meeting regularly before the meetings and would talk about everything you could think of. He would talk about his business. He would talk about this, about the financial news. I would talk about my business, this and that. And we became really amazing friends just because we drove early into the meetings and sat there. And I just marveled at the range of things he could talk about. And he had these different opinions about this and that. And I suppose you could say we were the odd couple, but it was just quite a delicious, amazing friendship of convenience and the clock and the freeway system. So a great gift and a great thing to be here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. How nice. Mary Grace, did you want to speak?
Gordon, I know that you're watching this. We miss you. Oh my God, I so miss you in the meetings. So I remember a night that we had a salon at my house, and we talked about the sexual things we had never shared with everybody. And you had some great stories. I remember the twins. And there was a time when I had just so mishandled my money. I was I had money in my checking account, didn't pay my bills. And Gordon was without any judgment. Gordon, you just were so nice. I was like tearful. I was so embarrassed and so ashamed. And you just took me under your wing. You introduced me to your friend who was a psychologist and an accountant so that he could kind of talk to me about why was I doing this. I just love that. I remember when you met Marilyn and you were friends for a while, loving friends for a while. So that was quite a long journey. I loved it when you were the financial person for Mastery Circle. Oh my God, you are so organized. You kept track of every finances that went on in Mastery Circle. Nobody ever had to ask you what's there. You had everything organized to the point where we had enough money that you started doing investments with it. And I was the other squeaky wheel that said, "Gordon, let's just give the money away." Nope, we have to invest it.
Okay.
So I just love you, miss you. I'm so happy for you and Marilyn, and just hoping that you're having a wonderful, joyful life with your sweet wife.
Thank you so much, Mary Grace. That was really sweet. Bill, please.
Yes, thanks. Hey, Gordon, it's so great to talk to you. It's a one-way talk, but it's still, I can just remember, um, man, and appreciate your taking care of us financially. Also, notes when at the time when we did notes, you and Nita split that up, and it was just
Yeah.
it was a task. It was a real task that you took on with such care and concern and dedication, and I was really struck by that. I remember we had great conversations, and what was interesting was talking politics with you. We didn't see eye to eye. However, you and my father saw eye to eye. So, having grown up in that environment, I was able to compare notes, with, I mean, certain authors, and, I understood. I got it. I truly understood where you were coming from. And, so we had some great conversations. I also remember a party that we gave and at our house in Highland Park, and it was raining cats and dogs, and you came, you made it all the way up, and so did a cousin of mine who had also he was in the Marine Corps. You guys traded war stories, and it was so much fun to see you just getting on and on, getting on famously. And I do remember there was a point where he was so taken with you, he wanted to introduce you to a lady friend of his, and you were footloose and fancy free at that point. You were single, and I guess you considered it, and I finally at some point said, thanks, but no thanks." And how good a decision you made, because that opened the door for you to connect with Marilyn. So, which is where who has brought you so much happiness, and so things worked out very well. But I just wanted to share some of those anecdotes and say how much I appreciate you, Gordon. Thank you.
Bill, wonderful. Thank you so much. Anybody else here? Okay, let's do Lovita and then Paul and Bonnie
I have
and then Patricia, right?
Patricia.
Okay, Patricia, we'll get you.
And Inger.
Okay, all right.
Go
So,
ahead, Inger.
Hmm?
Go ahead, Inger.
Was trying to get my thing off.
then we'll do Lovita and Paul and Bonnie, and then
Gordon,
Patricia.
can you hear me? So,
Yes.
Gordon, I just love you, and you were such a support to me in the group when I came in there after long ago, having been in the Inside Edge, and you were the one person that kind of was in the same persuasion that I was. And you introduced me to places to find out things and so on. I felt so supported by you, and also later by you and Marilyn. And the times we spent, like the time when we went down to Marina del Rey and sat by the boats and just had the most wonderful time. I just loved you so much, and Marilyn, well, still do, and Marilyn too. And I just hope that we can talk soon. And I love you.
Oh, how sweet. So we've got Lovita, Paul and Bonnie, Patricia, and then Melanie. Okay, so Lovita.
Thank you. Hello, Gordon. Hello, Gordon. I nicknamed you Frank G-Man. You never seemed to object, which delighted me. You never knew about the Frank part because you would share things that was so frank. I would just sit and marvel at your capacity. I started making a list, Gordon, of things that I observed and witnessed in you when I joined the Mastery Circle that moved me deeply. And then one day you showed up at my door with an apple pie, basically unannounced, and I couldn't imagine what on earth. And from there, you invited me to go to a play in Topanga Canyon. And you brought delicious wine, and we sat and talked and just got to know one another, just on the brink of your business partnership with Marilyn that you obviously had other ideas about. And it was just a matter of time that you two came forward. But I always appreciated how trustworthy I felt in your company. And you would send cards out on my birthday and at Christmas that were extraordinarily beautiful. And I was always so appreciative. You always struck me as so considerate. I appreciated when you were hosting the Act 4 in your home. And I walked in and saw a huge, bright red couch, again, in the velvet arena, that I just went, whoa, Gordon. I love you, Gordon. I miss your contributions. And I reflect kindly on all of my experiences with you, and I'm very grateful. Take care.
Thank you so much. We have Paul and Bonnie, Patricia, Melanie, Danielle, and then Mim. So, all right. So Paul and Bonnie.
Hi, Gordon. I miss you. I wrote something for you, so I would like to read it to you and then I'll send it. So I said, Dear Gordon, I've always appreciated so much your quiet presence. Your love and care comes through a glimmer and sparkle in your eyes. I think I've told you before, you remind me of my grandfather that I dearly loved. I hope you realize what a sweet soul you are. Bless you, Gordon. I love you.
Oh, so sweet. Okay. All right. Then we have Patricia, Melanie, Danielle, and Mim. So Patricia, unmute those, sweetie.
Hi,
Yeah.
Gordon. I started to come to Mastery Circle in January 2020. And because I was living in Silver Lake, I had to leave very early. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm using my phone today.
It's fine. It's good.
Okay. And so when I arrived, there were Gordon and Michael in that half an hour prior to the meeting before they opened. So I was delighted to hear their conversation, how different they are, and how all of us learn from each other. I really learned a lot from Gordon, even though I have different ideas, but I really, really enjoyed listening to you, Gordon. And then during the meeting, I was so surprised how well you took the notes, how alert you were. And when I read the notes, I could not believe how well you were able to summarize everything with such a skill. Sorry about this. So anyway, sorry I couldn't get to know you more, because then that March the pandemic started, and then we were in lockdown. So I saw you online, and that's when I got to meet, quote unquote, Marilyn virtually. So I'm glad that we're doing this. I want to show you my appreciation, Gordon. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Okay, Melanie, we have Danielle, Mim, and then Andrea. Okay, Melanie, unmute.
I just am all choked up with everything that everybody's saying about Gordon. When I first came to Mastery Circle, Linda sat on one side of Harvey and Gordon sat on the other. So I think the first thing, and probably the best description I can make about Gordon, is what a gentleman he was and is, and how the world needs that kind of behavior. And I wish he were out there in the world showing people what being a gentleman is like, because that's who he was. That's how I saw him anyway. I mean, he was smart, he was spiritual, he was kind. I just felt a special bond with him. We'd talked before the meeting got started, and I've always felt very close to Gordon. And on my birthday in October of 2024, I was sitting here at my desk and the phone rang, and it was Gordon calling to wish me a happy birthday. And I just had the loveliest talk with him. And that's when he told me he was, I mean, he didn't sound a bit different, not for a moment. Gordon, and when you hear this, I should be talking to you to say you are very gentle, astute, loving comments and concerns and questions. You always ask a lot of questions. You are always an interested friend and companion. I remember the beginning with Marilyn and getting to meet her, and you would come bring her to the MCLA parties. And I just was so happy for you and so sad when you guys moved to Arizona. That was a heartbreak. And hearing your voice was just the biggest gift. It's the biggest thing I remember from 2024. What a delight. I miss you so much, and it makes me a little teary-eyed just to talk about you. So I hope to talk to you soon. Answer your phone. Check your phone more often.
Oh, thank you so much, Melanie. Okay, Danielle, Mim, and then we've got Andrea.
Hi, Gordon. I've only known you since October 2019, and I really miss you. Um, I've wanted to tell you always how much I appreciated the first time we were in the Thanksgiving party. You actually took me aside and took me out to admire the sunset and pointed out how lucky we were to be able to see the sunset. And then you started asking me about myself, and I really felt like you were interested in me as a person, not just somebody else who was there. And I really appreciate that. I felt welcomed into the group. I had just joined Mastery Circle, and it really, really made a difference to me. During the meetings, I always really appreciated it's not just how well you took notes, but how tactfully you summarized certain personal things that we said. And if you would read the notes, they didn't come across as anything, you basically concealed the depth, but people really knew what they meant. And I really, really admire that skill. On a personal note, I really, really admire you, and I really found you to be such a shining example to me. During the pandemic, when you were sharing your mindfulness exploration journey, I remember thinking that, oh my goodness, there's always something new to learn. This man has been through so much, through a long life, and he's always finding something new to learn and practice. And I found that really inspirational for me. And then, especially in December 2021, when you said you had just got married or you were about to get married, and you had also celebrated your birthday. And I was like, wow, you are doing this. I just found it so encouraging. And then again, when you were going to move to Arizona, and you're like planning a move at this stage in your life, and I'm like wavering about always trying to plan moves myself. And I'm like, I found this so encouraging. And then the emails we've exchanged, and I mean, I could go on and on. And I am really now intending to come and I'm in Europe right now. I am really intending to come back to live in Los Angeles. And I really, really hope to come and visit you. God bless you. I love you, and I really, really admire you. Thank you for being you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Okay, we have Mim and Andrea. Go ahead and unmute. Oh, you're good, Mim.
Okay, yes, and I see Harvey just raised his hand. Yes, Gordon, you know, when I first came to Mastery Circle, after Mary Grace spent 6 months trying to convince me to come, and I came, and there were you and Ron and Thomas. You were like the pillars, the pillars of this fabulous group of people who were older than me, and I was thrilled to find people older than me. I think I was 77 at the time, but your liveliness, your energy, your kindness. And then I heard about Marilyn a lot, and I kept thinking, why is he talking about his roommate so much? Duh. And then I met her and I realized, oh, she's delicious. She is delicious. And just seeing you as an example of gracefully and beautifully moving into your older years as a model and as a mentor, I just so appreciate you, Gordon. Be well. I love you, and I want you and Marilyn to be so happy together.
Thank you so much, Mim. We have Andrea and then Harvey.
Hi, Gordon. I just didn't want to stay silent. I was part of the Long Beach crew. Gordon and Linda and I used to come all the way out to Beverly Hills on Tuesday mornings. And we were in so many meetings together for so many years. I remember a lot of, I want to call them parties, but they were meetings at Linda's house. And I've been to your condo too. And I remember when you helped me with my parents' living trust. We went to lunch together and he really helped me a lot. You really helped me a lot. And I just remember all of your kindness and your goodness. And I love you. That is all.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was beautiful. Harvey, unmute the Harv.
Okay. You're unmuted?
You're good.
Okay, good. Well, I'm really talking through Melanie's computer because my computer doesn't have a microphone and I haven't been able to fix it yet. Oh, so Gordon. Yeah, I used to come early also and talk to Gordon even before Michael used to come. And one of the things that impressed me so much about Gordon was his integrity. When I talked to him, we talked about things, or we talked about business, or we talked about the edge and the money. His integrity, I could visualize his integrity more than anyone else. And we talked about an awful lot of things. He and I also disagreed upon politics. He was had different views than I did, but we were kindly to each other and talked about things anyway. And we would share his opinion to me and my opinion to him. And I remember I was treasurer first, and then he stepped up, and I said, "Sure, let someone else do this hard job." So I handed him all the records, and he took care of them perfectly. And then when a new company came and took possession of his company because he sold out, he had to give me back all the records and not participate in money at all because it would be illegal for him. And so and it was very neat. And he had all in one little box. And he handed me all the records, and it was just perfect and easy to take care of. I miss him a lot. It was so much fun to communicate with him and be his friend. And I really miss you, Gordon, and wish you could be online here with us. And love to talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Harvey. Great. Lisa, and we should probably, I think most everybody's been able to talk and we've got the general theme. And so we have Lisa, right?
Great. So, Gordon, I came in and got to know you very, very briefly. It was kind of like two ships passing in the night. However, I was the one that ended up taking over the roster from you, and I remember the first couple of months that I was struggling through it, that you were always available to help me and support me. And I have to thank you because what you created is such a simple thing for me to do now because of what you set up initially. And I wish I had gotten to know you better. I've heard such wonderful things about you. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the time that we did have. And I wish you and Marilyn all the best.
Wonderful, thank you. And we've got Bonnie.
I met Gordon. I met you just a little bit at the end of 2019, and then 2020 when I came in at my union board meetings on Tuesdays, but I joined regularly when we went online and just had a little bit of time to talk to you. But then I got to know you a little bit more when I helped towards the end of the era of taking notes. Then I got to meet you, and it was always great to talk to you. Wish I had more time to get to meet you before you moved off to Arizona. And I knew how happy you were with Marilyn, and just wishing you all the best. And so glad that we're all here celebrating you today.
Thank you, Bonnie. Well, I think we should kind of wrap that up. These were very beautiful for Gordon, and I love Gordon. We talked a lot. We shared a lot. He wanted to move to, he said I would either want to move to Arizona or Mexico. I said, Gordon, go to Arizona. Go. He said, well, Mexico, I got some fun play. I said, Gordon, go to Arizona. He thanked me later. And the other thing I'll say is I had a financial planner for many, many years, and I brought the documents to Gordon just to check that it was good. And I was ready to pay him, and he checked them, and he said, this guy's great. And I said, Gordon, what do I owe you? He said, Tim, you owe me nothing. He said, you've done so much for me. That was so, it was just so wonderful. He was a very, very giving and wonderful person. Gordon, we all love you, and we did this for you. And heal up and get well. This is from the entire group to you. Okay, wonderful. I will put the video back up. I just have a couple of things on Ron, and then we'll go to Ron, and then at Laura's request, we'll do Thomas. And I have a lot more pictures and things on Thomas. So we'll go to Ron next. Let me find my river. Okay, escape. Let's go to. Okay. So I mentioned before that Doreen said Ron had a blood infection. He was in the hospital. He's in a wheelchair. He's bedridden, and he just sadly it's not a possibility for him joining us. So we're making this little video for Ron, and then Doreen will be able to bring it to the hospital and play it for him. Okay. So here's Ron. I have a couple of things that I copied and a little statement that he had made. Let me go here, share, keynote. Here we go. So, Ron, this is Ron. Ron was in Penn State Lions Club, which was a very, very exclusive high-level group. So he was amazing there. He was an executive vice president at Minnesota Wool, and he actually started selling door to door and worked his way up to executive VP. He was in Duluth, Minnesota, which is where I was born, so we had a lot to talk to there, which was great. He lost his daughter in a dental operation That was very devastating for Ron. And they gave her medication, and that she was in a coma and eventually died. He spent 4 years to get legislation passed to stop this procedure, and he actually was successful in it. Dentists were not apparently qualified to do that. He was married over 60 years to Doreen, maybe 65 by now. That was something he said a while back. So that is an incredible time. And he's an executive recruiter. Ron always called people. He always called people at different times, and people were down and out. It was a beautiful thing. He always did. This is something he wrote a few years back, and I'll just read it. Ron, his family is central. He has been married, this was 61 years. He said, if you lie, you are gone, but making mistakes is no problem. Your word is your bond. Congressman mentored him, and he said he would go to the academy, but was a Jew and figured it would be rough. As a boy, this is a story he shared one time. He was chased home and beaten up by bigger boys because of his religion, his Jewish religion. The turning point was he defended himself. With skates on his front porch, he knocked the teeth out of this bigger kid who had been chasing him. Then the boy's father called and said, you're going to do dental bills. And Ron's dad said, well, I'm going to go to the newspaper and publish a story about your son's prejudice and what you've taught him. So Ron was one of 10. That was a very important thing. He said that really helped his confidence and stand up for himself. He was one of 12 seniors at the Penn State club, and he met with Mr. Eisenhower, who was a mentor. I mentioned Ron's daughter dying in the legislation. He worked at Minnesota Woolen, became an executive vice president, stole door to door, and he gave speeches to his company. He likes to put people together. He's a real connector, and he also reads people. So he uses the phone. He always loved the phone rather than any other kind of texting or that sort of thing. He finished his career really as an executive recruiter. He was a top gun recruiter. He always worked extremely hard. Spent his time calling people, having personal conversations, which often changed their lives. He had a lot of people who thanked him and executives that thanked him. And he always worked at listening hard. So that was Ron. Motivator, connector, counsels new hire, solves business problems, loved to listen, cross-cultural corporate, and he then helped people fit into corporations with their personal missions. He was really good at that. Graduated of Penn State University in business, philosophy, and marketing. So that's a little background on Ron. And so we'd like to do the same thing. Linda, if you would start, that would be great.
Ron and I were both Jewish, and he considered me his little sister. And when we talked, it was really, really, really wonderful. And I know that Ron and I have a special bond, and we were really tight, very tight. And I remember helping him with some people that I don't know. Anyway, he helped me and I helped him, and we were kismet. We took our fellowship and we loved it. So that is, I love Ron. I love Ron.
Thank you so much, Linda. Then we have Paul and Bonnie and Lisa.
Okay, so Ron, you're the reason Bonnie and I are in Mastery Circle. he called us one day and said, "You got to join this group." And what a gift that was, Ron.
Yeah.
What a fantastic thing to do. We really appreciate it. Uh, you also loved my book, Invent Your Future Starting with Your Calling, to the point of giving me a list. I mean, hundreds of people you wanted me to send this book to with a little note from you saying what a good book it was. So thank you, Ron, and take care of yourself.
I milled all those out. I can go too.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Ron, I wrote something for you, so I want to read it to you. Dear Ron, I remember the first time you came to our home. We were having a meeting with one of our groups, and you brought me a beautiful wrap that I now have on the back of my love seat.
Mhm.
It's my reminder of a loving and generous friend. And you are the reason, as Paul just said, you are the reason that I have so many wonderful people in our lives today. By inviting Paul to present his poetry to the MCLA meeting at the Beverly Hilton. I'm so glad I went along with him that day. Act 4, Mastery Circle International, and my women's group all came from that day. You are a master people connector, Ron. I miss you. I miss your hugs. I've always seen you as a big brother. And I love you, Ron.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul and Bonnie. We have Lisa, Mim, Mary Grace, Melanie, Andrea, and Michael. So we'll go in that order. So Lisa, you're next.
So Ron, when I started Mastery Circle, it was pretty much on the computer because of COVID. And I was pretty shut down and had a hard time sharing in the meetings. And when I would go online and see these 30 and 40 people in little boxes, I remember you telling the group, but you were actually speaking to me, how important it was to reach out. And I remember after you said that, you were the first person that I called. And I remember we sat for at least an hour and we talked about each other. And that was such a key moment in my life, which I will not forget, because I didn't feel so bad anymore. Because here I had one friend from Mastery Circle. Well, of course I knew Mary Grace, but you were the one person who reached out to me and said, call me anytime.
Yeah.
And so I did. I called you frequently in the beginning. I don't know if it was daily, but I remember I called you specifically because you were a great listener. You were such a generous, heartfelt, you just had all of this love that I could feel over the phone. So I want to thank you for what you gave me. And I want you to know that I will carry you in my heart for as long as I breathe. And remember how important it is to reach out to others especially when you're not feeling so good about yourself. So thank you and bless you.
Oh, Lisa, that was beautiful. Thank you. Mim, you're next, then followed by Mary Grace and Melanie.
Hi, Ron. I miss you so much. Like I said earlier, you and Gordon and Thomas. Oh my gosh, there you were, all sitting on the other side of the table, but you were kind of like like I said earlier, the pillars. But Ron, you were always so kind to me. I can feel your arm around my shoulder right now, welcoming me, and you were always cheering me on. You would say, "Oh, ma'am, you're doing so much better. You're coming out of your shyness." And I thought, I didn't think I was shy. Did I look like I was shy? And then when Neil moved in with me, you were just so encouraging and so kind. And you reached out to talk to him to see if you could help him on his path. So I will never forget you, Ron, and I miss you and I love you.
Mim, wonderful. Mary Grace, and then Melanie and Andrea.
So Ron, remember this?
Oh.
this was just a precious wedding gift from Ron and Doreen for our wedding to Sam and I. I love this. I've had this out and displayed all these years. Gosh, I miss you. I miss you, Ron. I just always admired that you decided you needed to walk more. So you started walking a mastery circle. I thought that was amazing. And you are the consummate connector, networker with people. You would give us your Ron lecture about call people. And every holiday, you would talk about all the people that you called and that you contacted. And that's always inspired me. That continues to really inspire me. I was deeply moved by what you and Doreen did for your daughter. Just the financial sacrifices that I know you both made in order to turn things around in the dental community so they legally could not perform on other people what they did with on your daughter. And she, and she passed away from that. So I really continue to really admire what you and Doreen did. And I remember so well you talking so joyfully about your family, always about Doreen, of just how much you loved her after all these years. And I remember the stories about Rosie Greer. I loved Rosie Greer. He's one of the foursome on the football field. And you were very dear friends with Rosie Greer. So to this day, whenever I hear about him, I think about you. So I love you, Ron. I miss you. And just sending you lots of love.
Mary Grace, thank you. So sweet. Melanie, and then Andrea, then Michael.
Ron, I miss you just like everyone else has said. It's been too long, and I was thinking about Mim because I was trying to remember where we were sitting, and I think you were oftentimes next to Gordon, and Thomas was then on your right-hand side, and that worked out favorably for me at every morning breakfast because at that time we had sharing and then we had hugs, remember? And you were close. So I got the first boundless energy and love through your hug. And I just remember, and as everybody else has been speaking to, your constant concern for others. It was always, you were always focused on that. I don't recall that you ever had shared a story about anything unless it was some positive windfall that had come your way or somebody really fascinating who had called you, because you called everybody all the time. And I thank you for that advice and love and gentleness that you're so filled with, and concern and care. It's so genuine, and such a gentleman, and such a fine man. I just feel lucky to have met you and had the opportunity in my life to spend the time I did with you. I miss you, and I hope you feel better very soon. Love you so much.
Thank you so much, Melanie. We have Andrea, Michael, Bill, and Lovita. So Andrea?
Hi, Ron. I just miss you. Sorry. I learned a lot of Yiddish words hanging around Linda. But it was because of you that I learned the definition of a mensch. I remember when we first met, I was very impressed that you were a gentleman of a certain age and you had voluntarily given up your driver's license and you would walk to the meetings in the morning. And I was so impressed because it's so hard for older adults to give up their license. Like you kind of have to trick them and get the doctor involved and call the DMV. Just believe me, I've been through it. But you were like, you know what's not safe? Me driving. And you're just such a rare human. You just are. And I was really taken by that from the moment we met. And I'm sure I've told you this before, but you were like the father I always wanted.
Oh.
And my name is Levine, and you always said that I was an honorary Jew. And I miss your calls, and I just love you so much. And I feel so lucky to have gotten to know you over the years through Mastery Circle and extended here on this platform. And I just want you to know that I love you so much. And I'll always remember you. I remember you now. And I'm always praying for you. That is all. Love you.
Oh, thank you so much. We have Michael, Bill, Lovita, and then Nita. Michael, you're up.
I've always made a note of those people who give me unexpected magical experiences. There are a number of them, and Ron was one. Paul Walker knew Ron, and Paul and I had worked together for a number of years on a number of things. And Paul said to me, well, there's this guy who's interested in my book, and I guess I had triggered Paul to talk about a book, and he did this brilliant book. And he said, Ron's interested about this book, and, he's doing something with me. And it was all a little bit vague, but he said, I think you should talk to this Ron guy. That's about sort of how it came down. And he said, talk to the phone. So I had a conversation with Ron, and of course it was a very explosively creative thing, blah, 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 all this stuff flying around on the phone, everything. Ron said, well, I walk to the Beverly Hilton Hotel to have coffee in the morning. He didn't say anything else. He just said, well, I'm going to go to the blah, blah, blah. And then I may have to do a little meeting after that, but just why don't you meet me at about 6:45 in the morning at the Beverly Hilton Hotel and we'll have coffee. Blah, blah, blah. Of course, the whole thing was totally irrational, blown out of the sky. But I said, okay, fine, I'll meet you at 6:45 in the morning at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And then the whole thing was just, high energy, high energy. And I had this talk about the book and everything, and it was going all over the place. And he was just on fire and everything. He said, I have to go down to this meeting. But he said, it's a meeting about life. It's a meeting about life. And he said, I know you're going to like this meeting. I'd like you to come down with me. I said, well, whatever. So he takes me. We were up at the coffee shop up in the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and he sort of leads me, just like this, right down to the elevator. And we go to the elevator, and then we go down to the old coffee shop downstairs. And he walks me through the coffee shop, in through the glass doors, and everyone in the group is seated. And there I walked for the first time into the old Mastery Circle, and I felt myself at home immediately. And how many times in your life does that ever happen to you? That you walk through a strange place through the doors, and you find yourself at home in a company of friends because someone is so intuitive that he knows you belong there. That was the gift that Ron Safier gave me. Thank you.
Michael, that was beautiful. What a wonderful story. Bill and Lovita, and then Nita, please.
Great. Thanks, Tim. Oh, Ron. Yeah. What a beautiful presence you've been over the years. Inspiration with your expressing your love for Doreen, and I remember together you hosted these delightful gatherings at your place in Century City, and you were always giving encouragement. I used to present the most extraneous topics at at Mastery Circle on whatever interested me. I would research it, spend up to 10 hours, researching some field, and then come in with a presentation. And one of these, you said to me, That is incredible. You should write a book about that. Something which I had no experience in, but I'd studied up for this. And I really wish I had. I should have said to you, how do I do that? What are the steps and so forth? I didn't. It's just a lost opportunity, which I have too many of. We have too many of. But the good opportunities, the ones that we take advantage of, that I take advantage of, include your encouragement for us to make that phone call. Just pick up that phone and make that call. And I'll just close by saying I really loved an experiment, a challenge that you put out to all of us, which was to walk down the street and give away $5 bills to strangers and report back to us and tell us what happened. And it was just remarkable. And it was like a stone in the water that creates ripples that affect others in a positive way. So that's just one example of the marvelous guy that you are. So thank you so much.
Bill, that was great. We have Lovita, Nita, and then Afton. And Danielle, I think you put something in chat, right? If you have to leave.
Yeah, I have to go. I've put messages and of appreciation to
Do you
Ron and
want to go
Jonathan
here?
for
If you
that.
have to leave, do you want to just say a few words or?
Well, I've put it in the chat, but okay, thank you.
I think Ron would like the personal, if you could, just for a minute before you go.
Yeah, well, Ron, the very first time I came to Mastery Circle, you gave me a massive hug and told me everything's gonna be okay as long as I keep coming there. I was going through a real tough time, and I found that so supportive and so encouraging. And like you had faith in me, and you had just met me, and and actually for me these were these challenges. I remember the challenge to give the $5 and to just randomly stop and talk to people on the street, and remind them that they exist, kind of, and also give them money, and then report back like what Bill just said. I really appreciated that. And then there was this other time where you told us to you suggested that we should like call, I think, 3 people every day or 100 people in 30 days or something like this. And I actually started doing it, and it really started making a difference to my relationships and my interactions. And it came from you. So God bless you, and I love you, and I really hope you get better soon. Thank you.
Danielle, beautiful. I'm glad we could get you to talk and not just read something. He'll get the spirit of that. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so
Okay.
we have
Good night.
Lovita. Yes, I think we have Lovita, Nita, and Afton in that order.
Yes. Hi, Ron. I would be repeating a lot that everyone else has already said. Your laughter, your encouragement. I remember one day I was driving across the desert and my phone rang, and I was the only one out there. So I answered it, and you said, "Hi, where are you?" And it was like, I don't know. I'm way out in the desert somewhere. He said, "Well, tell me about it." And we just took off on conversation. And like has already been mentioned, it's like, then you happened to drop that you were friends with Rosie Greer. And it was like, say what? And then it was like, yeah, and Rayford Johnson, by the way. And it's like, say what? And the visual on that of you with Rosie Greer and Rayford Johnson. And it was like, I could just see you around a campfire or something with Rosie Greer crocheting, because that's his meditation. And Rayford Johnson, that is like this towering man. It's like, you got around. And of course, Doreen, and the love for your family, which always touched me deeply. I'm glad I got to know you, Ron. You're one of a kind and unique on so many levels, and such a gift to all of us. And I too was passing out $5 bills, and it was scary. And it was like, I have to figure something else out. This isn't going to work for me. Ron's got more courage than I do. I'm very grateful to have met you, sir, and I acknowledge you, your heart and your joy and your laughter with life.
Thank you, Lovita. That was wonderful. We have Nita and after.
Ronnie, baby, how's it going? That's the way he started every phone call I got from him. Nita, baby, how's it going? It's like, what are you up to? And it's like, hey, Ronnie, baby. I never forget when I first met him, I said, oh, you remind me of an uncle. He goes, uncle, honey, I remind you of your brother. I ain't that old. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the thing that nobody has mentioned, Lobita mentioned his family. He loved his family. He had twin granddaughters that he adored. And he introduced us, and I didn't hear it until recently. He introduced us to his grandson who suffers from angel syndrome. I recently heard more about, he was a champion for his grandson, and it's a version of Asperger's and autism, and it's a brilliant thing. And he just fought for everybody. I mean, he was the most passionate guy. I mean, it's like he loved everything, and he loves everything, and he loves everybody. And I miss you, Ron. I miss you. The only other thing I wanted to say was he always had great taste in sweaters. He always looked good.
Yeah.
And he would grow his hair out. He would grow his beard out. And he would cut his hair. I love you, Ron. Ronnie, baby, come back.
Oh, Nita, thank you so much. Okay, Afton, unmute though.
Hi, Ron. Wow, like a couple of people said, you were the very first person I met when I came to Mastery Circle. And I remember you came up like I was your long lost friend. I was feeling intimidated, shy. Tim had kind of been dragging me for years and years to get me to come. And there you were, like a ray of sunshine. I'm so glad you're here. And then I brought my son to the group once or twice, I think maybe only once, and you always remembered him, and you always came up and said, how's your wonderful son? He has such an incredible energy. And that makes a mother feel really, really good. And he remembered him too, like he was a friend.
Yeah.
He let everybody, or at least many people, into his soul, into his heart. And I too, still to this day, hear his voice saying, pick up the phone and give some people a call. I'm not very good at it, don't do it very often, but that voice is still there. And if I do make a couple of extra calls, it's probably you, Ron, saying, hey, just pick up the call and do it. And yeah, I miss you, and I hope you're having a nourishing, loving experience. So love you, Ron.
Thank you, Afton. I wanted to ask Laura if we're getting ready for Thomas. We'll probably take a very short break. Laura, are you there? And can you get Thomas up to the meeting here?
Yes, I'm still here. He is still resting, and so I'm going to do my best, and we'll see
Okay.
how it goes. Okay.
Well, I would figure about 5-7 minutes. We're going to take a short break here, and then if you can see if you can get him, and I'll do a little
Yes.
background on Thomas, and then we'll finish. I just remember with Ron that he always, always, always talked about Doreen, how special she was, how much she meant, how much he loved her. I mean, 6.5 decades is a long, long time to be connected with someone at an incredible heart level. So that's one thing I remember greatly about Ron. So I think we're ready. Yes,
Wait,
Nita?
didn't Thomas bring Ron to Mastery Circle back when we were at the hotel over on Sunset?
I think
I'm
he
not
told
sure.
me he did. I think I remember him telling me that.
Yeah, Thomas brought Ron.
Okay,
So,
Inger, I see your hand. You have to unmute though.
My assistant is helping me. So, Ron, I still remember those gorgeous sweaters you wore.
Yeah.
You were one handsome devil, you really were. And I was so impressed with how you always tried to persuade me to change my association. You know, I had Gordon on one side, and then I had you on the other side. It was fascinating and great. And I just want you to know is all is well, and I hope that you recover quickly, and I get to see your beautiful face and sweater again. Love you.
Okay, beautiful. Let's just take a 5-minute stretch break. Just please only make it 5 minutes so that we can get Thomas in. Thank you so much, and come on back in 5 minutes. I'm going to pause the recording. All righty, here we go. Let me get share. Kina, we got the sound going. Here we go. Go to play. Go full screen. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that okay. Okay, great. So here's Thomas. Thomas was a Marine Corps officer, which kind of blew my mind. We had a lot to talk about. Amazing, amazing man. And we both had gone through this training in Quantico, Virginia. He was a priest who served the poor and the gay community. And he was really avant-garde at that time, way out there. And the bishop allowed that. But at some point, it seemed the church seemed too repressive for him. So then he left and became a therapist and so forth. He did a doctorate on animals and instinct. Again, an amazing thing, very kind of Jungian. And I looked at his doctorate. It was great. He became a Jungian therapist. So you can see he was really serving all the time. Dream Master. He had a lot of stuff on dreaming and dreams. That was amazing. Betsy, also, he and Betsy did joint seminars together, which was really wonderful. And these are some wonderful pictures that just kind of capture Thomas. Thanks, Ruth, for sending those. They're really some beautiful pictures. There he is. We enjoyed times at his house when we met for Act 4 and stuff, and he and Betsy. There's some great pictures there. Happy Thomas. He cooking in his kitchen. That's just such a beautiful picture. We're not going to read this. I just wanted to show this is something that we did at MCLA. We did a dream thing. And this is all Thomas's stuff. The purpose of dreams, show us how dreams help our inner growth, give us information about the outside world, give us confirmation and affirmation, how dreams prepare us, and talked about nightmares and big dreams. So he was really a dream master. And we took some of this to Mastery Circle and talked about it because we did a lot of dream work there too. I'm gonna do a little thing about Betsy here. Here we go.
Ever met a human being that was more intelligent, more individuated, more aware and knowledgeable? It was Betsy Caprio Hedberg. She was unbelievable. And I must say, there's an inner Betsy and an outer Betsy. The outer Betsy is passed on, but the inner Betsy is within me. Amen. And I'll just end with a quote I'm going to use probably next Tuesday, that death is an experience no one can heal. Love is a memory no one can steal.
And there is beloved Betsy. Oops, let me stop here. Okay. So we have Paul and Bonnie. If you want to go ahead, Paul, great.
Okay, so every time we went to Thomas's house, he had this huge library of books. And he's always wanting to give me a book. Well, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. And then he always had little plants in a pot,
Right,
which he would give to take home. So, I mean, Thomas was, he's a real priest. I mean, talk about someone who understood people and gave and helped them. Thomas, you're just one of the special people in my life. Thank you so much for everything you've done for me and for everyone else around the world. Thank you. Bonnie?
Yeah. Oh, yes, Thomas, I want to read you something I wrote for you. I miss seeing you very much. When I think of you, I always go back to the time you came to a meeting at our home. We were meeting in the garden, and you really wanted to see the inside. And so I brought you inside and I gave you a tour. And I just loved how interested and curious you were about everything and about Paul and I and our lives. And it's really special. The only thing that I was concerned about was that you were going to bang your head on our narrow stairways that I was taking you through. I actually didn't take you to the very top room because I was concerned about that. But anyway, that was so much fun. Really enjoyed that. And I've always seen you as a gentle giant, and I always felt welcome and cared about from you from the very moment that I met you. I love you, Thomas. I miss you. Take care.
Thank you so much, Bonnie and Paul. We have Nita, Bill, Mim, and Melanie, and then Linda. So, Nita, please.
Well, you took my word there, Bonnie. I always thought Thomas is the gentle giant. Oh my God, funny and always laughing. And, it never seemed like Thomas was ever down. He's always got a good word. And all right, somebody help me here. The poem he always spoke, always was, they drew a circle and left us out.
Right.
But we showed them, we drew a circle and brought them in. And that was him all the way. He just, that laugh, that hug. I mean, when he hugged you, you felt like God was hugging you, It's like, oh my God. In that house. Man, I could not wait to get to that house. It's my kind of house. There was shit everywhere, and it was all fabulous. And Betsy was a witch. She was a shamaness. I'm saying Thomas loaned me her journals that I read voraciously. This woman was brilliant and she loved him. Oh my God. They were the couple that we all dreamed of, and they had it. I just would love to have another hug, Thomas. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Nita. Bill, Mim, and Melanie, Linda. I've got the rest of you too. So we just, Bill, you're next.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tim. So let me put this hand down here. Put my hand down. Okay, great. So yeah, I just wanted to say, Thomas, what a great experience it is to know you, to be inspired by your so generous expression of your love for Betsy. I'm also moved by the way you described growing up so extremely prejudiced, but were you able to overcome that and really live a life that was open and as you mentioned, working with poor people, Hispanic people, gay people, and showing them the same love that everyone should experience. That really impressed me. Also, Nancy Drew was an area where Betsy was an expert and had written a book, and I took it to a book agent that I knew of who, considered it and didn't go with it, but I really wish that had come about. But I recall one time when you took me to a poetry therapy event at USC that was so amazing. And I want to say truly one of the highlights of my life through you is the time that you invited Linda and myself to a
Thank you.
Hello?
I stopped it. You're good.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Bill.
You invited Linda and myself to accompany you as we visited Norman Corwin, one of the giants of radio writing for radio. So that was a wonderful moment. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. We have Mim, Melanie, Linda, Afton, Andrea. I've got the rest of you. Mim?
Yeah. Okay, Thomas, hi. What I want to talk about is the wonderful time you and Afton and I drove to Esalen together and spent the week there. While we had the best time. We watched 8 movies a day, I think.
Wow.
And we went in the hot tub and we hung out. And it was like being with a brother and a sister. It was so much fun. And I miss you so much, Thomas. You were one, like I said, you're one of the giants of Mastery Circle in my heart. And I missed you so much. And I love you and I want you to be well.
Mim, that's so beautiful. Okay, Melanie, Linda, Afton, Andrea, Patricia. I got the rest of you. So, Melanie?
Okay. Thomas, I'm just going to repeat everything. I hope you're accustomed to that. All of these fantastic things everybody before me has shared. Of course, I'm a tall person, so I didn't think you were a giant. I did think you were gentle and very handsome. And I have to say, your sense of humor and your laugh, Nita was right. Your laugh was it just warms me to think of you laughing, and I hope I get to hear that soon. And I would sure love to see you and experience all your loving energy. You are just, people talk about, people who have a circle of light around them, almost angelic. That's how you are. That's how I experience you. And I just want to send that right back to you and look forward to being able to share some jolly jokes with you very soon in person. Love you so much.
Thank you, Melanie. We'll have Linda and then Afton, Andrea, Patricia.
Well, Thomas was very close to me, and I love Thomas. And my sister had ALS, and he drove all the way to the Bay Area to be with her. And I'll never forget that. And he was, just a beautiful, beautiful man. And I remember seeing him at the docu-day, and he was just wonderful, wonderful, a real good, just a wonderful, wonderful person. And I love him. I love you, Thomas.
Thank you so much, Linda. Afton, you're next, and then Andrea.
Wow. Hi, Thomas. Wow. Thomas and I had an incredible relationship. And for several years, right into the first 2 years of the pandemic, he was my best friend. Thomas, as Min has already mentioned, whatever I would say, I'm going to a week in Esalen for films. He says, sign me up. I'm going to Cuba. Sign me up. We had incredible trips together. I remember getting lost with him in Cuba and not quite knowing how to get back. And I was panicky, and he was just, okay, it's, don't worry, we'll get back there. He was more like me than anyone I know in terms of reading and broad interest in reading, Thomas. And I don't think you did me any favor when you suggested you wanted to give me your library, and I do not need another library. But I took well, lots of other people got parts of his library too, but I got carfuls of boxes of books that I still have not dealt with. Lots of duplicates, Thomas, but some very precious things. He gave me one of Betsy's journals. And I said, here, want to give it back? He said, no, I want you to have it if it's me.
Wow.
And it sat by my bed for a long time, and I didn't know Betsy, but I knew her through Thomas and through the journals. In reading the books that he's given me, he had notes in every book, like he had actually read and made comments on hundreds of books, whether it was art or psychology or architecture or poetry or travel. What he had books on everything, which I do also, the most eclectic tastes. His house, he made me feel so comfortable because, like Nita said, it was just like my house. And once I went to his house, I had no problem having him over here. Thomas, you would come, we'd watch movies, chill with the dogs. Yeah, I miss you a whole lot. And for those few years when we were both a little bit lonely, we were really each other's best companions. So love you so much, Thomas.
Afton, wonderful, beautiful. So we have Andrea, Patricia, and Lovita in that order. Andrea?
Hi, Thomas. I just wanted to say I love you. I remember you. To me, you were a giant, like up there, like near Tim. Just a scholar and smart and like just the deepest person. One of the deepest person I've ever met. It's one of the reasons I love this group, because you're all just so special. Just so you're all very special. But I know that this is about Thomas. So Thomas, you were I remember when you lost Betsy and you were so vulnerable in your grief, and you were so generous in sharing parts of her with people. I hear that a lot of people received some journals, and you shared with me her Artist's Way book, which was like publishable. It was so beautiful. And it was just so generous of you. You just wanted people to know she was gone now, but this remained, and you wanted to share it. And I just was so taken by that. And I remember so many kindnesses, and I just love you. I'm so happy that I got to know you. I'm praying for you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Andrea. That was beautiful. So we have Patricia, and then Lovita and Michael after that.
Can you hear me?
Yes, good.
I met Thomas in January 2020 in the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I offered to work in the Sunshine Committee, where he was a member too. So we started to work closely, and we talked every week on the phone, and then we started to meet to write the birthday cards together, and we started such a wonderful, deep friendship. And we used to go on walks every week, once a week. We went to a Rumi meeting organized by Meetup. Excuse me. And this gentle giant, as people said, really touched my heart. And when he met my son connected him with him so well, so deeply, that my son adopted him as an emotional grandfather. And he was very, very loving with my son Trevor and with me. And in my time of need, he was always there. I always had a tender ear to listen and a shoulder to cry on. So I love you, Thomas. I miss you.
Thank you, Patricia, Lovita, Michael, and then Mary Grace. And Ruth, will have you after that.
Hello, Thomas, my friend, as you have befriended so many in our group. I want to read the first poem I ever heard Thomas recite by heart when I first joined the Mastery Circle. And it's by a Swiss physician. He who understands also loves, notices, and sees. The more knowledge that is inherent in a thing, the greater the love. Anyone who imagines that all fruit ripens at the same time as strawberries knows nothing of grapes. It touched me so deeply at the time, Thomas. I'm so grateful for having had a moment in life to share with you. It's like you're absolutely invigorating, ingratiating on so many levels. I got to go to South Africa, where you were being celebrated for the 25th anniversary of your contribution to the Catholic Church with your YES program, that is Youth Experiencing Spirit. And what a time we had. Your wingman, Jim Garcia, was also there, and everything was taken care of so beautifully. And being able to see you celebrated, and you even made a presentation in a play that they put on where you were a blind and mute man. And I was so touched by your capacity to bridge so much of life and embrace it so seamlessly. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I too got to share in Betsy's journals, and the respect that you two shared with each other touched me deeply. I'm forever grateful for those moments in time and place. And I too loved going to your home. What an unbelievable collection and display of life and intellect and curiosity. Thomas, thank you so much. Hope.
Thank you, Lovita. That was really beautiful. Okay, we have Michael, Mary Grace, and Ruth.
I'll pass over the number of times I used to go to Thomas's house over in, I guess it was Culver City area. And we'd brew some tea and sit down in a big armchair sort of between the stacks of books that were ready to be moved out. And we would talk for 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours about every topic you can think of. And he would give me books to take home. I think there was a couple of books that were in Spanish that were for my grandkids. There were always books for the grandkids to take home. But the thing I really want to remember for everybody that was so extraordinary to me, because he was such a polymath, he could talk about anything at a deep level, was way back at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, which for me was just enchanted territory. Coming to it late, unlike all of you who started it, was when Tim and Thomas would present together on what I would call ancient topics, primal topics, where Tim would drum and talk about different things about like the ancient peoples. And Thomas would invariably present the spirituality of animals. Yeah. And he would always have a presentation that raised up animal spirits. And he would present these things about these tales of the horse or of the different animal spirits. And he had this incredible literacy of the animal spirits and what they were, what and how different cultures in different interpreted them. And then, Tim's part of the presentation would often be, I remember it somehow paralleled all this, but the end would end up with drumming. And then we'd close the doors and then he would actually drum and we'd meditate to this deep sound of drum. It was just like a whole primal, almost a time warp that went in there. But the two of them created this. And it's something that's been lost on the internet, something we don't do anymore. We don't do this kind of thing. But Thomas and Tim created this together. And so that's my memory of what Tim and Thomas created. And it's deeply valued and it's still with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. But yeah, I remember Thomas so well with that. Mary Grace and then Ruth.
So Thomas, whenever I think of you, I think of this. He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took them in. That so represents you, Thomas. You always were so inclusive of everybody, whether they were gay, whether Hispanic, Black, whoever it was, you were always embracing and inclusive of everybody. And that really was the thing that first drew me to you. I loved how you loved Betsy.
Yeah.
She was truly the love of your life. And it was just the sweetest thing to hear you talk about her dancing and how entranced you were with her movement and her dance and her intellect. And you were so honoring. And I just was so deeply moved by that. And it was interesting because the relationship the two of you had was wonderful. And I wonder, story I tell myself is maybe part of that was because you each had a separate house that was connected. And I thought, that's actually a great idea. It really gives your separate space, and yet you're still joined and together. And that's beautiful. I really admired in South Africa the Yes program that you began, and it's still going on today. When I was counseling people, 25 years ago now, you were such a kind mentor and helped me with different situations that I came up with individuals. You had a really deep, keen insight, which I always just valued and appreciated. Every time we'd have a potluck, I always knew Thomas was going to be probably first in line, taking a gentle giant portion. So I have very fond memories of you socially there. And I just love you, and golly, I miss you. Just love you so much.
So wonderful, Mary Grace. Yes. Ruth, and then after Ruth, maybe Laura, if you want to say anything. So Ruth, unmute though, Ruth.
I just want to acknowledge what an extraordinary group of human beings all of you are. And, you're all reflecting on Thomas, and you're all a reflection of what you say about Thomas yourselves. And I believe it was Thomas that brought me to the Mastery Circle. If I'm not mistaken, he used to talk about it so much. And finally, I think he brought me as a guest. And I have a special nickname for Thomas. It's Thomasino. And it's something that developed over the years, first of all, because we both spoke Spanish, because he spent time in Latin America. And it was my way of calling him like I would a brother rather than just a friend. And he would always answer me by saying, "Oh, it's Ruth Brody Sharon." He would say my whole name. I first met him through the interfaith community in Culver City. And I joined the local group, and we became fast friends immediately, and he introduced me to all the people there. And then shortly after that, I was invited to show a film I made, God and Allah Need to Talk, in Barcelona. And so I went to Thomas and I said, let's go to Barcelona. Do you want to come along with me? And just like Afton said, sign me up. He was gung-ho, and he went, and he was such a good sport. He was robbed the very first day we were in Barcelona. He had his money in the pocket of his jeans, in the lower part, on his leg, not even on his hip, right? And he was still robbed. And that became one of the great stories of our adventure while we were in Barcelona. He was so good-natured all the time. And he also had an enormous sense of humor about the work he was doing in interfaith. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of that. We were at a friend's house in Pasadena, and there were new people that had been invited to. This was I would say, in the early 2000s, right? People had been invited for the first time to experience interfaith engagement. And many of them came with trepidations, and they didn't know how the people would be. And one of the women who came sat next to Thomas. And then she said to him, "What are you?" trying to identify what his religious background was. And he said, "I'm a Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist." And he just went on and on and on and on. And then finally he stopped, and she said to him, "Oh, must be very confusing." And he said, "Oh, it's not confusing for me. Can I explain it to you?" That was who he was. And the truth is, he mentored many people, and he had one of his mentees was an Afghani woman that was becoming a therapist, and he mentored her, and she had the key to his house. She used to come, she used to see clients there. He brought in many people, he invited many people. He was the consummate host. And I remember so many times when we had meetings at his house for the interfaith community, we would sit in the room with the fireplace, and he would have 20 chairs. We would all be squeezed in together. And it was his happiest time. What I remember is that he felt at that moment that he was doing God's work. And it was because he had this knack for bringing people together, but then he could bring them together for a larger purpose. He loved Rumi. He adored Rumi. And at one point I organized a Rumi event because we discovered that Rumi was such a perfect magnet for people of all faiths. And we ended up meeting in a church in Culver City, and Thomas was helping me with that. And people came out of the woodwork. And his love for Rumi was also an extension of his love for poetry in general. I don't know how many of you know, but he also was very active in poetry societies and in organizing, I was going to say webinars. We didn't have webinars, and seminars, and bringing people together to discuss poetry. I'm trying to think of I had so many adventures and experiences with him. I wanted to go back to, I think, what Bill said originally about Thomas, that he was raised in a very prejudicial environment, and that was true. And Thomas used to talk about that his father was very anti-Semitic, and that it took him years to process that and to get over it. But what it resulted in was Thomas befriending some of his best friends, literally, just like the saying is, some of my best friends are, it's true, some of his best friends are Jewish. And he had Nathan, I can't remember his last name, he was a therapist. He was Thomas's mentor, and he loved him so much. And He had Jewish art in his house of rabbis studying the Torah. He just, anything that had to do with learning and with Judaism interested in him. And I could go on for much longer, but I'm just going to end with this short thing about Thomas, is that in Yiddish, when you're saying goodbye to someone, you say to them, be healthy. And he learned that from his mentor. The words are sei gesund, sei gesund. And after Thomas and I would be together or talk on the phone, he would always end by saying to me, sei gesund. This Marine ex-Catholic priest, right? Man of many, many faiths, man for all seasons, would always tell me in Yiddish, because I'm Jewish, and he loved that about me, sei gesund. And so I hope Thomas is hearing everything that we're saying now, and I hope Laura is available to talk about him. I have more stories, but for now, I just want to say, Thomas, you are my big brother, Thomasino, and I'm glad to be in your life now. I'm glad to be your trust protector. I'm glad to be someone who gets to know about you every day and gets to wish you well on every level.
Thank you, Ruth. That was really beautiful. Thank you so much. Laura, are you there? Did you want to say a few words? Okay, maybe not. I'll just say a few words.
Tim, I just
that?
want to say, I sent you a photo of Thomas in Cuba, which may be the last, photo. It was in 2020 that you might. It's a really nice photo.
Okay, great. Thank you. So
I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, good, Laura, please.
Yes. Okay. So, first of all, Thomas did light physical therapy, and they gave him a little bit of a sedative, a mild one, but I have not been able to waken him. And hold on one second. So I am actually now on on the line at In-N-Out Burger because Thomas was finally taken off the ventilator. Tim, I sent you 2 photos. If you're able to share the photo of him on the ventilator, that would be great. So you guys can
I'll
have
see if I can.
image. So he was last week Thursday at lunchtime. Caregiver went to his room and he was sitting on his favorite rocking chair, and his eyes were open, but he was not responding to questions or prompts. And so the wellness director and I were in a meeting, and so we immediately went there, and we thought that he was possibly having a stroke coming on. So we called the paramedics right away, and they rushed him. All the nearby hospitals, especially his Kaiser Hospital in West LA, were completely full in the ER and ICU, and so he was directed to the Southern California Hospital in Culver City. And we finally were able to get him transferred to Kaiser 3 days ago once a bed opened up. And it was a really scary time because he had to be put on a ventilator for, 7 days. And he had a tube down his throat because he had excessive fluids around his lungs and heart, which was causing him difficulty breathing. And he was on a ventilator and also taking antibiotics for the pneumonia and another infection. And so, of all the times that I've been with him throughout this past year and a half, taking care of him mostly 5 days a week and tag teaming it with my daughter. And now I brought on some part-time private caregivers to help out. This was the scariest. And he's had at least 4 ER trips during this past year and a half. But every single time he comes out, he's such a fighter. This gentle giant. I echo what everyone says. He's a big teddy bear, and his hugs are the warmest. And I am now at the In-N-Out Burger drive-through to get his strawberry vanilla shake because he started a puree diet yesterday, and he's like, "Can you get me a strawberry vanilla shake?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." And he's like, "And when I get out of here, can we stop by In-N-Out and get the #1 combo, my favorite? You always take me there after every appointment at Kaiser." And I'm like, "Yes, once you're released from it all, and we will go there." And so I'm fulfilling and executing one of his requests right now as we speak. I'm grateful that this beautiful honoring ceremony is being recorded so he can hear all of his beloved friends who are family to him share all of your beautiful sentiments and everything about Thomas. And I honestly have to say that I've met Gordon and Ron briefly when I was there at Mastery Circle in a few gatherings, and they are like three peas in a pod, or triplets, brothers from different mothers. And I first met Thomas in 2009, February, at an interfaith peace event at the Soka Gakkai International Peace Center in Santa Monica. That was February 9th of 2009. And we met. There was this immediate soul recognition connection. And he pursued me multiple times the upcoming months to come and join our Southern California Parliament of the World's Religions Board. We don't have a Latter-day Saint Mormon, and you're Indigenous, Pacific Islander, Hawaiian, Samoan. We need you in our circle. He was relentless, and I just thought of him from day one as my father, and I've always called him Papa Tom. And now all of his caregivers and all call him Papa Tom. So that way, as we care for him, we are reminded that we are to give him TLC as if it were our own father that we were caring for. And even though, they are paid to do what they do, when Thomas is in the hospital, they come and visit him without wanting any pay. We are definitely a family. And so I want to share that the most amazing thing that I feel about Thomas is that his love for his beloved Betsy is so divine. I honestly haven't ever experienced that other than my own wonderful marriage with my husband, which we've now celebrated our 40th heavenly anniversary. He passed away a year after Thomas's Betsy passed, and that's 8 years ago. But almost every single day, Thomas talks about his Betsy. It took me almost a month to pack his home and move him to Studio Royale Assisted Living. And everything in his apartment now is really like all the books, 2 bookshelves, we downsized. And everything is Betsy. It's like a Betsy ashram. And I'm so grateful that he has so many dear friends that come to visit him and call him and video him. And it just, for me, I have spent the last 23 years traveling around the world for my foundation to do interfaith peace building and humanitarian projects, mostly in war-torn areas of the world. And I am so honored.
Hey, Laura, could you turn on your video? Would that be okay for a minute so we could see you?
Actually, I'm in the car, and if I turn it on,
fine. Never mind. Okay.
The strength of the video will not be as strong.
Okay.
And so, but what I was trying to say was that Thomas has always been interested in supporting every single project that we have, but I always tell him, don't worry, just your prayers is all we need, and your good wishes. And so even to this day, he is such a interfaith leader and a humanitarian. One of his friends spoke about the YES program in South Africa. I don't know how many of you know about that Youth Encountering Spirit program, but he sponsored, a school there in South Africa. And to this day, one of our members here shared that it's still going on. I have a list of his wishes that he would like for us to fulfill before he takes his final breath. And I told him, I promised him that I would do my very best to execute on his behalf, except for the last request, and that is to go to the Himalayan mountains in Nepal to see the villages that I serve, and possibly to go to South Africa to see the school once again and meet the children, the new generation of children. I just want you to know what an honor and a privilege it has been to care for, serve, and watch endless movie series, Netflix movies, and with him. And he loves company. If any of you have time to come and visit him, please do so. Or even video call or FaceTime. I can accommodate all of that. 2 ketchups, please. And also, I want to thank those who have come. Many of you have come. And he loves it. He absolutely loves it. And so even a phone call, he giggles and laughs with Levita on WhatsApp videos. Linda has come to visit him, and many others, Mary Grace, Patricia, and even people from his other groups. I try to keep him up on the Zooms. I'm so grateful last week he was able to be on so y'all could see him. He said he was doing good and feeling well. Well, it's just 2 days after that he went to the ER, and I'm there to coordinate everything on his behalf. And even when I'm not there, you're most welcome to come have breakfast or lunch with him or dinner, his treat. And do know that he does have a beautiful legacy, as you all have shared. But I am planning on a living celebration of life for him when I get back from South Africa in April, so most likely in May or June. You all are most invited to come and share your love for Tom. He would love that, to do it in person. And in addition to his other, brothers, Ron and Gordon, the 3 twins, he does have a beautiful triplet. His adult children are very kind and gentle and special, just like Tom. And I have had the blessing and joy of administering over them for the past 7 years. And in the celebration of life that we will plan to hold, you will get to meet his children and his 24-year-old granddaughter. And they have been doing video calls with him and just expressing their love, and for him to fight through this. And I will do my absolute best, as always, to exercise him and walk him, which it's like pushing him in a wheelchair up a hill. It's his least favorite thing to do is walk and exercise. But we're going to get him back and healthy again so we can have this beautiful celebration of life. And I'm planning to include it with another dear friend of his who is going through cancer. And she has also visited him as well. So we love you all, and please continue to keep Thomas, Ron, and Gordon in your prayers. And aloha, mahalo.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. That was so heartfelt and so meaningful. I have grabbed those last 3 pictures. I thought I'd throw them up real quick so you can see them. I've got one from Afton and the other 2. Here we go, share.
Thank you.
There we go. And here's play.
Beautiful.
Full screen here. There's the picture with Afton and Thomas in Cuba, right?
Oh, no, I this was a mistake, but let me explain it. Thomas and I led a group. I think several of you came to it on film, and it was based
Oh.
on the one that Mim and Thomas and I went to. It was the same idea. And this was one of the films we were
Right.
showing.
Yes.
So, but I then sent you the Cuba one. It should be there.
Yeah, that was at our house. actually.
Yes.
Oh, that is those are your chairs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Great. Okay, and this is Thomas in the care unit.
Yes, that was at the Southern California hospital about 5 days ago. He was still on the ventilator
Okay.
and only answering by squeezing my hand or nodding his head. And he was removed from the ventilator 2 days ago and doing well, slowly recovering. And then the next photo is his 86th birthday celebration last December 21st. And that's me and some of his beautiful friends.
Oh,
and
sure.
Look at that big, beautiful smile and saying hello. So that's him communicating to all of you and conveying his love and gratitude and deep honor to know you all and consider you as family.
Thank you so much. Well,
that photo showed the love in his eyes.
yes, it does. It does. That's great. Okay, well, we've gone through this entire beautiful thing. Thank you so much, all of you. It's wonderful to be able to share this with these beloved people while they're still here, rather than later on. And I know it's going to mean a lot to him. I'll be able to get this to his caretakers and his wives.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you,
Thank
Tim.
you for doing this.
God bless you.
Yes, mahalo,
Thanks, Tim.
Tim.
Love you too.